What's going on, guys? Time to review my NHL 26 wish list. If you missed my other video, NHL 26 will actually be releasing 1 month earlier this year. Should be sometime in early September between the Madden and FIFA release date. So with that release being pushed up, we should be seeing the reveal trailer pretty soon, sometime within the next week or two, I would guess. So this video here, guys, just gonna be covering everything I'm hoping to see in NHL 26. I'm gonna try and be pretty realistic. A lot of these things I want are either in other EA games or even were in previous NHL titles. So we're looking at gameplay today, as well as presentation, EASHL, Hockey Ultimate Team, Beia Pro, and finally franchise mode. Now, starting off with gameplay, this actually comes from FIFA. I just saw in the new FIFA 26, they're gonna have two different gameplay types. They're gonna have your competitive one, which is more for online play, less randomness. I think this is a great idea. And then you're gonna have your more realistic one for offline play. For NHL, of course, that basically mean, you'll have broken sticks, you'll have weirder puck bounces, things like that. I think this is such a good idea because a lot of those kind of random things are fun when you're playing against a computer. It doesn't really matter, but when you're playing, online competitively, ESHL, Hockey Ultimate Team, whatever it is, if it's more like, money games for, say, GWC stuff, you don't want that randomness in the game. So I think this is a great idea by FIFA. I really hope NHL is also going to be adopting it for 26. Obviously, time will tell. A couple other smaller things I like to see with the gameplay. I've been playing a lot of EASHL this year, and I think the most annoying thing for me is the hip checks. They are so overpowered. And I saw someone have a really good idea, which basically said you can only hip check when skating backwards. I think that would solve the issue. Right now, a lot of people on the forecheck, they just come down and then just slide into you ass first with their hip check. And two, like, you can kind of get a later hit off with the hip check. It also knocks you down for longer. It's super OP. So I think only being able to hip check while skating backwards is a huge fix. That'll just make the gameplay a bit better. And then finally, too, this is more of an issue for like 1v1 game modes, like your online versus your Hockey Ultimate Team. I think your D2D one-timers are way too overpowered. Right here, guys, actually an image from Sapster he gave me for his Hut team. Cale Makar leading in goals. There's probably an issue there, especially 85 overall. Cale Makar is still the best player on his team, this late into the game. So those DD one-timers definitely just too OP when playing against, your AI goalies in those 1v1 modes. Hopefully, they can fix that as well. And now next you guys want to talk about presentation. I should mention too, in regards to the gameplay, I'm sure there's a bunch of other bugs and things you've seen in NHL 25. Any little bugs like sticks getting caught on guys or sticks going through players should be fixed. That's expected. These are more like kind of features or literally changing how the current game plays. But in regards to presentation, guys, I've seen all of your tweets and I agree. I'd love to have full presentation back with, the goalie stats at the start of the games, players actually walking out of the tunnel. I think that'd be so cool. And you could even add it to the existing presentation with, the crowd having all the lights. I think those two together would actually be awesome. And a couple other things with presentation, I'd love to see some of the more like event games brought back. I'm talking Winter Classic. We had that in previous games. I know some people didn't like it, the lighting and stuff, but like as a one-off in franchise mode or whatever it is, or just, doing that when you want to play a friend just for fun, I think it's an awesome mode to have. Same goes to the All-Star game. We haven't had that in so long. I think specifically franchise mode, actually seeing who gets, picked the All-Star game on your team. I always, loved looking for that. And if they could actually even add a skills comp on top of just a regular All-Star game, that would be the cherry on top. Obviously, it's been a long time, so it's probably not coming, but I would love to see it return. And now next you guys are talking about Hockey Ultimate Team. I'm not gonna lie, I haven't played too much Hut this year. I think every single year since about NHL 22 or so, I've been playing less Hut. So I think for me, easily the number one thing on my Hut wish list is just bringing something new and exciting to Hut that's actually gonna get me back into the mode. I've been playing this mode since it first came out on NHL 11, so I mean, like 15 years now. It's more or less the same thing. Obviously, used to have like contracts, you could boost guys, some tweaks here and there, but more or less it's the same mode. I want something, really new, something fresh that actually gets me back into it. I think too, for me, as someone who only plays it casually, there's just a bit too much going on. Like if you go to Hut Moments here, you can see there are just all these different themes shown throughout the year. And I think like, some of these are obviously really cool, but a lot of times, like during the year, I just don't even know like what cards are doing what. And like you really have to kind of be plugged in to know, like, it's insane. It just keeps going and going. So I think, I don't know, just kind of less clutter in the mode, making things a bit easier. Obviously, maybe I'm just nostalgic for like, the NHL 16, 17, 18 days. I really enjoyed, that Hockey Ultimate Team. Also, too, I think that, packs have gotten a little bit out of hand. There's too many packs for starters. Like, if we go through here, there's just so many. And also, they're so much more expensive than they used to be. Coins, obviously, is a reflection of the market, but I think in terms of price, like, you should be able to get a decent pack for $5. You shouldn't have to spend $50 to really get a super pack. I think, if they were a bit cheaper, people would be opening more of them. They'd be, willing to spend a little bit of money opposed to a lot of money. More people opening packs, more cards on the market, more people playing. I don't know. I could be wrong, but just for, again, someone who used to be really into Hut has kind of fallen out of it. Those are just kind of things I'd like to see. And now next year, guys, we're talking EASHL. As I mentioned, played this game mode a lot more this year. I really like the addition of the arcade mode. I think it's a lot of fun. Having said that, not a ton of people are playing it. I think one of the reasons is you look at the rewards, like you get some disco bucks or whatever. who really cares, right? I think the rewards, for cool modes like this should be really cool. That way you have a ton of people playing them. And like I said, I think they are a fun mode, but they're not fun when, it takes forever to find a game because it's kind of a dead mode. If you had some cool rewards, whether it be cosmetics or even like, I don't know, maybe you get like a 10 times XP if you get the top reward. They could have a bunch of different things going on. I think there's a lot there that they could just kind of incentivize people to play these fun modes more than they currently are. Also, too, guys, as you can see here, my build, if you guys play defense, I think just one of the better ones. I think it'd be cool if you could have just a bit more customization options. For instance, like you're kind of limited with your zone abilities. I think they should kind of open it up more, just have more options. Obviously, there will always be an OP thing no matter what you do. So I'm not really sure why you'd want to limit the customization. Now, having said that, I don't really mind like the trade-off they have here where like you lose wrist shot power, but you can, gain acceleration. Maybe though they could even make it crazier, like a +10, -10, opposed to right now, +5, -5. Again, I just think, opening things up, really letting people put the points where they want, having fun with it, getting back to like those NHL 14 days, I think is what we all want. And we've kind of just been slowly but surely, getting back there. Another thing too with clubs, I'd really love if you could actually join multiple clubs. Obviously, you'd probably have to pick like a primary club in terms of like the ones you'll get the rewards from for that season. But just be able to, be in multiple clubs so you're not constantly, getting invited or whatever it is. I think that'd be a cool option. And like I said, just simply have primary club as an option, but then you have other clubs you can join. Because I'm sure a lot of people have, multiple friends with multiple clubs. And then finally, this is kind of like a small thing, but I find when I go to the store, trying to buy, some cosmetics or whatever for my guy, it's pretty tough to find what I'm looking for. Like, it's very cluttered, kind of like Hut. There's just a ton going on. I wish it was more streamlined. Maybe a search option even, like, I don't know, I can press Y or something like that, search hoodies, and then I don't know, like some sort of search option, kind of like the Hut auction house. Right now, like the way it is, where you just have to scroll through everything. This is where there's just a ton of different items, and you basically just have to scroll through looking at everything, and I don't know. I think it just takes a bit. I think everything, should be available all the time. And kind of like my point with the builds, basically just let people customize their character exactly how they want. And now next you guys want to look at Beia Pro, obviously a mode that has not been touched in quite some time. First and foremost, they have to get rid of pricey pawn hockey. It's become a meme at this point. I posted a video last year on it. A lot of people were just kind of saying the same thing. Like, pricey pawn hockey is a meme. They got to get rid of it. And whatever like the new intro is, make it skippable. You've seen it once, you don't need to see it again. Right now, you cannot press any button. You guys are thinking, oh, we can't. No, that black screen just to fade out. I can't do anything other than dashboard if I want to skip this thing. And you don't even skip it. You just kind of get out of it, right? So whatever it is, make it skippable. Hopefully there is a new one because, like I said, this is a meme at this point. I think with that too, they have a lot of unnecessary cutscenes that don't really add anything to the narrative of your guy going through the NHL. So they can cut a lot of that out. A lot of it's just, skippable. It doesn't add anything. It's time wasting. And I think too, with not anything to the narrative, a lot of those cutscenes don't even make sense. Like, you'll have a bad game and he'll say you did great out there. You'll have an amazing game, scored a hat trick, and he'll say they need more from you. Like, they really need to fix that logic in terms of how the coach reacts to your on-ice play. I think too, with that, they should actually just have a lot more things in the mode that are reflective of your gameplay. Like, if you go off and score 200 points in a season, which people do in Beia Pro, it's, you can kind of cheese it. You should get a fat contract, like $20 million, whatever it is. And then if you're absolutely terrible, you go out there, 3 fights, tons of penalties, no points, you should be able to get sent down to the AHL. You should be able to get, lose your contract, have to be in free agency, and maybe you don't get signed, and then it just says, like, your Beia Pro's over, kind of like when franchise mode says franchise mode's complete. I think that'd be crazy. Like, having actually some stakes in your career opposed to always having a spot in the NHL would just add a lot to the game. I know for a lot of people this is actually their favorite game mode. Me, obviously, I'm more of a franchise guy, but I hope for their sake, like, they can make this mode as good as it possibly can be, as there's a ton of potential here, and obviously over the last few years that potential has not been met. And speaking of franchise mode, that's the last topic on my wish list. Obviously, you guys know what's number one. That is GM Connected. They told us that they're going to have, a connected franchise, GM Connected, in a future NHL title. Now, that was a couple years ago. How far into the future are they thinking? It could be this year, maybe 27. Obviously, fingers crossed it'll be this year. And franchise mode got a huge upgrade last year. A lot of the things kind of lend itself to GM Connect with custom leagues where you could just have, say, an 8-team league with only 8 of your friends. So hopefully the groundwork they laid in 25 is setting up GM Connected NHL 26. Time will tell. I think too, another thing that I've mentioned many times, EA, I've seen other people, mention it as well. We need to get rid of like the blank player silhouettes. I'm not positive, but I'm pretty sure NHL is the only EA sports game that still has these. College football doesn't, Madden doesn't, FIFA doesn't. UFC, I don't know, but I'm pretty sure they're the only one that still has these. Like, at this point, like, come on, it's not, I don't know how hard it is, but it just takes it out when, like, you have this sick player you drafted, and you kind of want to be attached to them, but you're just looking at black blank face. It'd be a lot better if you actually had some sort of picture, even if it was, you know, just an in-game one. With that too, guys, another thing I get asked about a lot is roster sharing. Obviously, me, Vasi, Tugi put a lot of work into our roster. I think it's one of the better ones, you know, just being honest. A lot of people want to use our roster that aren't on Xbox. Currently, they cannot. So I think it'd be awesome if you actually had cross-console roster share. I could be wrong. I feel like this is easier than cross-console gameplay. It's literally just a download file. Like I said, maybe it's, you know, tougher than I'm thinking, but it would be awesome if, like, you could go here and you'd see rosters from Xbox, from PlayStation. Again, it's simply a download file. It's not a big file. I don't know. I think it'd be awesome, and like I said, it does suck. Half of the player base or more can't use these rosters that we put all this work into. And then finally, guys, you know, speaking of rosters, I'm just moving around there. We need faster menus in franchise mode. That's another thing I've seen a huge complaint for. I agree. This year, obviously, they added a ton to franchise mode, and I think they kind of didn't realize just how slow the menus are going to be because of that. If you, like, move around and stuff, it is crazy how slow it is. I think I put out a tweet one time just showing how bad it is. So that's one that's almost like just kind of a bug thing, but I actually have it on my wish list because it's that bad, and I think like the quality of life would increase so highly if these franchise modes were snappy. You can move around. It would just be, you know, so much better. So that's gonna do it, guys, for my wish list. Again, just trying to cover the biggest things, also not trying to cover too much, trying to keep it realistic. Let me know if you think anything here is kind of crazy to ask for. I don't think so. I think like in a new game, a feature set, we probably would never get all of this, but I think we could, you know, definitely get some of it, right? So let me know in the comment section, guys, which features you want most in NHL 26. And as always, hopefully you enjoyed this one. If you did, leave that thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't. Thank you guys for watching. Have a nice day. Goodbye.